Hello, and welcome back to Book Readings with King Chaotis. We continue where we left off. The fresh smell of lavender wafted through the room, mingled with the peaceful tinkle of wind chimes. Everything was perfect, exactly as described, except... What's that? David pointed to a bulge in the bed. Elizabeth Pennycuttle groaned with embarrassment. She swept across the room and dived beneath the folds of the red patterned blanket. That's Bonington, our cat, Lucy said, grinning. He likes getting under things. Newspapers, blankets, all sorts of stuff. Mom says he's always getting under her feet. David smiled and put down his bag. Bonington. That's a really good name for a cat. Lucy nodded in agreement. Mom named him after a mountain climber. I don't know why. He couldn't climb a beanbag. Well, he could, but we don't have one. He mistakes the sound of the beans for cat litter, and then he poops on there instead of in his box. Lovely, said David, glancing anxiously at the blanket. With a rake of claws against fresh bed linen, Miss Pennycuttle emerged clutching a brown tabby cat. Her curls of red hair, now in total disarray, resembled a rather bedraggled mop. She grimaced an apology, plopped Bonington on the windowsill, and bundled him ungracefully into the garden. David moved the conversation on. Are there buses to the college from here? Loads, said Lucy. 3 an hour, her mother confirmed, hastily replumping her hair. And there's room in the shed for a bike, if you have one. If you were stuck, you could always have a lift into town in my car, as long as you don't mind sharing with the dragons. Oh, yes, said David, raising a finger. His mind floated back to the wording on the postcard in the newsstand window. Must like cats and children, and like him. Lucy pointed to a shelf above a sealed-off fireplace. Sitting at its center was a small clay dragon, unlike any that David had ever seen. It wasn't a fearsome fire-breathing monster, the sort of dragon that might capture medieval maidens, nor was it a cutesy cartoon sort of thing. There was a fiery pride in its oval-shaped eyes, as if it had a sense of its own importance and knew it had a definite place in the world. Its tall, slim body was painted green with turquoise hints at the edges of its scales. It was sitting erect on 2 flat feet and an arrow-shaped tail that swung back on itself in a single loop. 4 ridged wings, too large, too small, fanned out from its back and shoulders. A set of spiky flag-like scales ran the entire length of its spine. David picked it up and very nearly dropped it. It's warm, he said, blinking in surprise. That's because it's been in the sun too long, said Miss Pennycuttle, quickly cutting her daughter off. She lifted the dragon out of David's hands and rested it gently back on the shelf. A cone of sunlight fell across it. There are loads of dragons in our house, said Lucy, a bubble of excitement in her voice. David smiled and touched a finger to the dragon's snout. For one strange moment he thought he could detect a layer of ash on the wide flared nostrils. He ran a thumb across the glaze and decided it was dust. Do you collect them?